Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fourth edition of our Developer Marketing Summit. This brings together the top brass of developer marketing, outreach, and community management professionals, and is filled with varied keynotes and track sessions from the leading minds in this industry. Following a runaway success when we first ran this event back in 2017, it has since become the most anticipated event of the year for developer marketing-focused professionals. We have a packed day in store for you. In the next few hours, you'll hear from our stellar speakers on their developer marketing experiences, success stories, and challenges. But first, I'd like to talk briefly about how Evans Data's depth and breadth of research services and very robust methodology can help you market even more effectively to developers. Evans Data has been around for over 2 decades, and we are first and foremost a primary market research firm with a developer-centric focus. Back in 1998, Evans Data was created to fill a need for in-depth research into software development trends and adoption patterns among developers that was previously lacking in the industry, in essence, pioneering developer research. Today, we help all the major tech firms and beyond with their developer-focused research needs, as companies from every industry are opening up APIs to share with the development community. And those APIs need the support of a focused program. So in a nutshell, we help our clients understand the opinions, perceptions, intentions, and adoption patterns of developers through syndicated research. But as in-depth as our syndicated reports may be, our clients often need to go deeper, and we can do this via custom research. You'll be glad to know that we have an equally rich pedigree in both areas of research. Our syndicated research provides a 360-degree view of the development and IT tech landscape. We run 12 syndicated surveys throughout the year, as you can see on this slide, in different areas, producing detailed data-driven insights on the back of them, and with different cadences depending on the type of survey. Developer marketing and developer relations programs are our tactical surveys, which we run once a year, around the same time, with detailed reports on the back of each survey. For our clients, these also tend to be entry-level reports. Let's start with developer marketing, as this also is the theme of this event. This comprehensive survey-driven report presents more than 250 pages of data focused on providing the best practices on how to engage developers. It's a must for any marketing professional targeting developers and would allow them to base marketing campaigns on clearly defined developer personas, use developer psychographics to create compelling messaging, and also strategize media spend by knowing what works. Now let's move to developer relations programs. This report looks at the attitudes, adoption patterns, and intentions of developers with respect to developer relations specifically, and provides best practices on how to recruit developers to your program and make sure they stay there. It allows DevRel managers and directors to learn to effectively recruit developers and turn them into advocates, make the right decisions about program goals, features, and pricing, build and maintain a successful developer program, community website, and training sessions, meet and exceed developers' expectations for technical training, and understand how to enhance developers' productivity and efficiency. Now let's talk a little bit about our AI, ML, IoT, and cloud surveys. These are all run twice per year, targeting developers that need to have specific affinity and experience in these areas, wherever they may be situated in the world. These surveys provide a comprehensive view of the attitudes, adoption patterns, and intentions of developers covering the hottest tech developments in these different technology segments. And the results are available via detailed reports. One report on the back of each survey. Now let's move to our DevOps survey series, which was launched back in 2019 and is published quarterly. This survey series gives a comprehensive view of the vital DevOps issues as seen by developers on one hand and senior IT and ops managers on the other. This covers 4 key areas: DevOps fundamentals, DevOps and the cloud, DevOps in a legacy environment, and DevOps and emerging tech. With an equal number of respondents surveyed in each group, this provides a very unique data lens into this very hot and trending area, which is becoming ever more prevalent across industries. Let's now focus on our global development survey. This is an omnibus survey that runs twice a year, looking at the hottest tech and development topics globally. It's by far the largest survey series we run, translated into 6 languages, and is the only survey which is broken out regionally. Results are available via an in-depth report and a data analytics console. So what is the console? This is a dynamic platform containing all the data charts produced by the global survey. The data charts are uploaded twice a year, just after the global report is published. It allows you to slice and dice the data in several ways by using 30+ built-in filters. This includes by region, by developer segment, by development focus, and by company size, among other areas. The console is particularly useful if you need some hard developer data to back up your assumptions or arguments. This ingenious tool gives you the ability to slice and segment the data your way, as well as redraw relevant charts on the fly, download, and print them. For all purely survey-based data that we've been discussing up to now, we offer clients what we call priority input. This means that if they are interested in purchasing the full series in any of the above areas, i.e. what we call a subscription, any of their suggestions or input will be included in the next iteration of the area which they've subscribed to. This creates a high ROI long-term when clients purchase multiple subscriptions of this kind. So this is still part of our syndicated research, but as it's a little bit different to our other reports, wanted to talk about our worldwide developer population and demographic study in a separate breath and its methodology. In essence, it's a worldwide market sizing study providing a top-line view of how many developers there are in the world across 30+ countries, what technologies they use today, and how these estimates are projected to grow in the next 5 years. But how is this study built? It's created by analyzing publicly available data and plugging this data into our proprietary developer population model that allows our analysts to understand the capacity of a country to produce a developer, and then this information is extrapolated regionally and worldwide. It also leverages the results of the global survey, the technology trends, and overlays them onto the population model. In fact, this is what makes this study really unique, as it's not only a pure market sizing study per se, because it analyzes population numbers in relation to the type of technology developers are using. So for instance, it tells you how many Python developers there are in APAC. Running since 2006, it is widely recognized as being the de facto standard developer population report with the most statistically accurate population data. It was also quoted by Louis Columbus in a Forbes article saying that the methodology Evans Data has created to produce this report is the most comprehensive developed for aggregating, analyzing, and predicting developer populations globally. Many clients also often ask us, what's the main difference between this study and the global development report? In contrast to the global survey, which presents results as a percentage of the developer population and is a snapshot of developers at a given point in time, this study presents results via absolute number of developers and is a holistic interpretation of the total addressable market because it factors in historical growth, externalities such as the pandemic, for instance, and other economic factors, plus other conditions that may influence the capacity of each country to produce a developer. This is also what helps build out the 5-year forecasts. Now let's move on to shared vendor surveys. And there is an obvious problem with this model. This is where essentially you get several vendors together and every vendor gets as many of the users to fill out the survey. It stretches across users, but this model is much more prone to be a skewed survey, as from one vendor to another, the number of users can vary significantly. There's also value in doing user surveys, and we help our clients understand better what their own users think about several aspects. When you do them, though, they should be blind, so that the views of your users are as honest as possible, as they're much more likely to be honest and objective if they don't know who is asking the questions. For instance, media sites tend to do user surveys, and these are very useful tools for marketing because they allow you to see who is in the audience of the user profiles. But on the whole, there is a significant limitation. as it's a biased view, and so therefore you cannot project to the wider universe. So I explained a little bit of what we do and the scope of our research, but how do we go about doing it? We've been cultivating our own proprietary panel for the last 20 plus years, with now more than 160,000 developers and IT pros across 80 plus countries. Typically, our panelists are active for about 3 years before they stop participating, but we recruit and attract more developers on an ongoing basis. And this means that membership is comprised of current developers at all times. Just under half of them are in North America, with 25-30% in EMEA and APAC respectively, and 5 to 10% in LATAM. In terms of the panel's composition, there are broadly speaking 4 main categories, but much narrower segmentation is also possible, as we'll see in the next slide. 40% of our panel develop apps internally within their companies. 25 to 30% develop apps for VARs and SIs. The same percentage split for ISVs, and 5 to 10% for OEMs and other areas. For clients that need help marketing to a specific subset of developers beyond traditional segmentation that we just talked about, depending on how specific their target audience is, deeper segmentation of our panel is possible. This could involve, for example, targeting developers who are developing a particular type of app in a specific tech area, within a specific vertical, region, or also even by purchasing influence. We can apply this segmentation to recruit developers for custom bespoke research, but are also able to use this segmentation on our syndicated research if there is a need for this. So we talked a little bit about the scope of research, but it's also important to understand what goes into the research to be able to produce the results. Margin of error is the yardstick which we use to determine accuracy. Bearing in mind, margin of error is 5% within market research, or 304 developers to be precise. We aim for 4.5% or better in all our surveys. As you can see here in the graph at the bottom, it's not so much about being just a numbers game, as after about 1,500 respondents, there are diminishing returns, and you can never actually get to 0% unless you interview every single developer there is. So it's a case of finding the right balance between accuracy and cost for our clients. Now to this slide, which is very, very important, because it's good to know how many people there are in a survey, but where do they actually come from? Results have to be projected to the rest of the universe. They have to come from a sample that is unbiased and random. It's very important you're not using somebody's vendor or technology list, as in a specific platform or language, for instance, as this would skew the results and you won't be able to project to the wider universe of developers. We have multiple sources, but have carefully selected them so they are all tech agnostic, and we're very diligent about this. Our robust methodology ensures that whatever the sample size, the results can be projected to the wider developer universe, making the insights very actionable to our clients. In addition, when we actually run the surveys, we offer neutral incentives to respondents. We allow them to accrue points, and then once they've completed the survey, they can redeem those points against cash or gift cards. But we never incent them with branded items, as this would bias their answers. So our clients often need to engage in more strategic developer marketing initiatives that involve custom research. These are just some of the most popular types of custom surveys we can run, but this list is by no means exhaustive, as we're very flexible to run other types of surveys according to our client-specific needs. Custom research has always been just as popular as syndicated research, but since the pandemic began, it has taken on an even larger significance. The reason is threefold, as A, more and more companies need to have the latest insights from a much more targeted developer audience. B, they interface less with developers, missing the all-important hallway conversations they used to have, needing therefore to pick their brains in different ways. And C, budgets which were dedicated towards hackathons and other events are being now channeled towards custom developer research. So let's start with awareness, share of voice, and NPS. This type of survey is highly solicited by our clients, as periodically within the year, they need to get the pulse of the wider developer community on how aware they are of their offerings or brand. They often also need to know how effectively their marketing mix is fulfilling these goals. Using and leveraging data to inform marketing strategy is key, and awareness testing is a great way to do marketing, whether it's blind or prompted. In terms of share of voice, this is a very fascinating method of research, as it doesn't only tell you about which company developers have heard about, but also what they've heard. Understanding how powerful your brand is and how resonant your messages are is always an important piece of intelligence that marketing professionals seek. We ask developers how aware they are of your brand and your offerings, with a particular interest in whether developers have heard about your company recently. With this, you can get a lot of information as to who's been talked about, whether it's good or bad. For instance, you can ask about ads. For instance, did you see an ad from our company or product? You can tell what they took away from that ad and what their impressions were. So this way you can gauge share of voice. An important note here is that measuring awareness or share of voice regularly lets you fine-tune your marketing efforts for maximum success. Now let's move on to NPS. Of course, no product or technology operates in a vacuum, and it's important to know what your competitors are doing and in which ways they're either pleasing their customers or falling short. One way of looking at this is through NPS, a very well-known measure of user perception that we do on a regular basis for a number of clients. It provides a simple yet effective way of measuring success. NPS is particularly useful as a kind of finger in the wind test of satisfaction. However, as marketing professionals, you all should be aware that cultural factors may influence scoring. Some regions of the world are less likely, for instance, to rank companies in the extremes, whether positive or negative. What's also interesting to observe is that in some regions, people are more likely to score towards the middle than in North America, for instance. Beyond NPS or customer satisfaction, however, we also offer more comprehensive competitive research that will drill down into your competitors' strengths and weaknesses as well as your own, as shown by this traffic light table. We ask developers to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of different attributes that the client is looking for within their own company versus their key rivals. Green means that those attributes are ranked highly, orange, that they're ranked averagely, and red means that they're ranked poorly. Now let's move to segmentation and personas. Positioning your product, creating a good and convincing message, and finding the right way to attract and persuade your target audience often requires being able to segment the developer population that you're trying to reach into separate groups based on their personas. And there are two types of personas. Predefined, so the client comes to us with a preconceived idea of who their personas are and how they believe their product or offering should appeal and resonate with these persona groups. Or organic. This involves cluster analysis. We talk with the client, define the product and service, we survey the right sample, then use cluster analysis to determine clusters that originate organically. This can spring up some surprising results, for instance, identifying new clusters. Either way, you arrive at insights that are specific to multiple distinct segments and that help you target each of them more accurately. So we can also help our clients regardless of where they are on the developer journey, and this is also a very popular choice among them. We typically see several steps within the developer journey, and this type of research allows us to find what motivates or influences developers to move forward along the funnel. How do you get a developer from the discovery phase to the evaluation phase? How do you move them from evaluation to piloting? First, developers are unaware. Then they need to become aware. Once they're aware, you need to get them interested. Then you need to figure out how to get the right message to them, including features of the product highlighted in a way that's compelling. Then you need to get them hooked by offering them a trial with support included. Once they've tried it, you need to establish at what price point they would be willing to buy. And once the pricing is right and they're using your product, you need to get them to support your users through your developer program. And then the final step is when they actually become advocates and champions of your product and offering, promoting it by organizing contests and awards. There are many ways to say things, and not all of them connect with developers as powerfully as others. Before spending a lot of money putting your messages out there, it's a good idea to test them first. For example, we can test individual words within the message or even artwork and illustrations. Marketing campaigns can be costly, as we all know. So you want to start with the most effective messages, and that's another area where we can help. With online survey research, we can test your messages securely and discreetly with large numbers of developers wherever your market is. And unlike focus groups or one-on-one interviews, quantitative survey research can be projected out to your whole target market. We can also do product and platform positioning as illustrated by these two examples. There's two different kinds of positions here. One cigarette with a filter and one without. How do you put them together? How do they compete against each other? Positioning is all about perception. And the best example of this is the Cola and 7-Up positioning strategy in the 60s. There were so many cola drinks on the market that the public was craving for something that was different. Enter 7-Up. You may have a dynamite product and a strong campaign behind it, but if the price isn't right, you'll be swimming upstream. So this type of survey can be highly valuable to ensure developer adoption of your product offerings. The right pricing is not a single number, but rather a band that ranges from high to low, and that corresponds with how many people will accept the cost. This is what pricing elasticity is all about. With our custom survey research, you can see the effect of this dynamic on your proposed pricing. So you can select the price or tier pricing associated with the largest return. If we apply advanced conjoint analysis, you can also test the relative value of product features or bundle elements. Developers complete a choice tournament, which dynamically presents different possibilities and identifies the optimum mix for your product, as well as the pricing that will deliver the best results. In this graphic, you can see conjoint analysis and discrete choice that was applied to one of the surveys we ran. They have a menu of different packages they can select and suggested pricing, and then developers can respond if this is something they would buy and at what price. This type of questioning goes out to the whole sample, and then you have a pretty good idea of optimal product configuration and price point. Now we've got a few data slides for you. First of all, the developer profile. We can see that since we first started tracking gender, the percentage of the developer population that is female has generally grown. It's actually doubled since 2001. We found that this relates to age, as female developers are younger, by and large, than the male population. It also relates to region. As we can also see on the graphic on the right, for years, there was this perception of developers as loners, single males that were tied to their careers. While the vast majority of the population is male, most developers are actually also married. Now to the demographic developer makeup. The median age we observe is 34. Historically, North America had the oldest developers. Software development industry began earlier in North America than in other regions, and this explains it. In addition, APAC developers tend to be younger because software development didn't explode in Asia until the early 2000s. North America median age began to get younger in 2008 after the Great Recession. That event, coupled with the introduction of modern paradigms in development and software distribution, drove older developers from the market and opened doors to younger developers who took advantage of these new technology platforms like cloud and mobile that lowered the barriers to development. Finally, to developer psychographics. What's really striking here is that only 5% of the developers are mainly motivated by making money. And as we can see, the most compelling reasons to develop are a desire to challenge themselves and personal curiosity. So to sum up, Evans Data is a full services research firm that for the last 20 plus years has been the go-to resource for companies across different industries that need methodologically robust, syndicated, and/or custom developer-focused research to drive their strategic marketing initiatives. Many thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoy and get the most out of our developer marketing summit.